I've been really looking forward to this video. This is maybe the most exciting lot of cards I've ever gotten, all within a few weeks of each other. This doesn't even include the cards I showed in my earlier videos, the Hall of Fame rookie cards, and some of the modern cards. These are pretty much just pre-war cards, many of which are extremely, extremely rare. And, you know, when you talk about rarity, some of these are actually the only known copy on Earth, like potential unique items, one of ones, and I'm very excited to show those. So it's kind of hard to even know where to start. I'm kind of tempted to start with the more common stuff and work my way up. But you know what? Let's just jump into the really crazy stuff. So let's start with Hobbs. Jack Hobbs, probably, oh man, it's so hard to compare, but maybe the second best batter of all time. Bradman's number one, in my mind, done deal. Second, you got an argument for Hobbs, argument for Tendulkar, argument for Sobers. Not a lot of other people, I think, probably have an argument. But Hobbs, one of the best five batters of all time, maybe number two. This is a very obscure thing, but I thought I'd start with something you've probably never seen before. This, I believe, was a United States newspaper, marked 1925, and I don't think this is quote-unquote worth anything, right, because it's a newspaper clipping, but I saw it, and I just figured it's probably one of the only, I'll say, who knows if these are out there, but I don't imagine there's a lot of people that had cut this out and put it in a scrapbook like this one had been. So this was taken from a scrapbook, but I can't imagine Hobbs got too much publicity in the U.S., but maybe he got some because they compare him to Babe Ruth here, Britain's idol, and that just shows you how big of a star he was. He was even getting some publicity here on this side of the pond, but just thought that was kind of cool, unique. Moving on to probably more interesting Hobbs stuff. There is a Jack Hobbs signature on a Churchman's, which is just a pretty cool item. You don't see a lot of signed Hobbs cards. That's a really nice dark signature too. So very nice one there. Let's get to the really good stuff. Here's a set that is very rare. There's actually two series. A lot of my knowledge of this set came from Stephen Fleming, so thank you, Steve, for the education session here. But this is the 1928-29, what's known as the Suburban Premiums or Victorian Suburban Premium set. Supposedly these were two series. The first one was 1921-ish, and then this second series is more rare. This is from 1928-29-ish. But here you have a Maurice Tate. Tate is a guy who, as I've done my research about the greatest players of all time, I've really been intrigued by him. He actually is the father of swing bowling, so medium fast bowler who for 6 years in a row was the number one ranked bowler in the world. And for 5 years in a row, I want to say, he was the number one ranked all-rounder in the world. So I think he's one of the only, maybe the only guy that's ever been the top-ranked bowler and the top-ranked all-rounder 5 years. But anyway, this is a very rare set. I think Steve Fleming, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but something like 20 cards in the set, 10 England and 10 Australia. And, there's only maybe one person in the world who's collected the whole set. People that look for him quite a bit don't even have half the set. I believe Steve did not. Maybe, Steve, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you said you had like 6 of the 20 cards or something like that. So a very rare set is the point I wanted to make. And there's different shop owners, I guess, different shops that had their names in the back. It was a company that I guess kind of sold sold this idea to the shop owners in Victoria. But here you have a really nice condition card of a really rare set, but not as rare as these two. These two here, and you've got a Hobbs and a Grimmett here. And by the way, I think Tate was the #1 bowler in the world for 5 years, and he was overtaken by Grimmett, and Grimmett was the #1 ranked bowler in the world for the next 6 years. So these guys were the #1 ranked bowler in the world for 11 or 12 years in a row, which is pretty cool. Anyway, back to these cards. This, again, is that Suburban Premium set. The thing that's interesting about these two cards is that the specific backs here are the only ones, at least the only ones that I know of, that Stephen Fleming knows of. So if you're watching this video and you have any more information about other copies or other instances, let us know. But again, the normal backs were all vertical. These two cards are the only known two cards from this vendor, but also the only two cards that are known with the horizontal backs. So these two are potentially unique. Not only like the only Hobbs from this specific store, or the only Hobbs with the horizontal back, but these two might be the only horizontal back cards left in existence from this set. So, it just happens to be two players I collect pretty heavily, Hobbs very heavily, Grimmett pretty heavily. So was very, very, very excited to have the opportunity to grab the only two known of this entire set that might be around in the whole world. And who knows, maybe somebody does have some of these out here, but Steve Fleming is pretty knowledgeable and knows a lot about different folks' collections. So good chance that those are unique, as in one of one, only copies of those on the planet, which is pretty neat. And even the Tate, I don't know how many copies of that exist in the world, but my guess is it could be 10 or less total with any backs, based on the limited information I have. So very excited to have those. If I wasn't showing you that one of one Grimmett, this one would also be one that I would talk about how incredibly rare it is. This Dinkum Sports Morrow set is a very, very rare one. The Bradman in Jody's book, the Bradman book, I think is an R10. Might be a 9, but I think it's a 10, which means, incredibly, incredibly rare, incredibly hard to get. So I was happy to pick that up. And I'll just jump, I guess, to these postcards while I'm on Grimmett. But these are not very rare postcards. I think these are listed as R4 maybe in Jody's book. But I have to think the condition of these is pretty rare. These are really, really, really sharp, like sharp mint condition postcards. Maybe not mint, that's a little strong. You can see the bottom. But as far as what I would expect postcards from this era to be, I think these are 1933, something like that. They're really nice. Bradman is so sharp. Unbelievable. So there you go. Very cool postcards. I think these were Amalgamated Press, maybe. I'd have to look back in Jody's book to remember. I think they were inserts in or associated with some kind of publication. But back to Wally Hammond, in which, by the way, it's pretty interesting. Looks like this card, or this postcard and this card, were taken from the same photo shoot, but they chose a slightly different pose or slightly different shot for it. But this is another really rare card, the Plum Ridge set. And just a really sharp card. Like the black is really dark, really deep. So again, like it's hard to tell sometimes with these, like just how rare they are. I don't know with Plum Ridge, are there 30 copies of that card in the world, 50, 20? I really don't know. I just know it's considered a very, very nice set. And obviously I collect Hammond, so it's nice to pick up Hammond cards whenever I can. Here's another more common Hammond I picked up, the BDV. But this one is a big dog. This is my first ever Sugar Products card. And what's special about this card is it is the only known copy of Wally Hammond in the world. So there is, I think, I want to say 2 or 3 Bradmans known in the world. I think that the Australian players are a little bit more common, meaning like some of the Aussies have 2 or 3 copies out there. But this Wally Hammond, as far as I know, and I've asked around, and I know I think my friend Luke has a tracker of all the ones that are known in the world. This is the only Wally Hammond Sugar Products card known to man, I believe. So as far as my collection of Hammond, these are some nice additions, but nothing better than that right there. But I'm not done on potentially unique one-of-one Hammonds. I recently picked this up. Not too rare, a bit more rare, uncut like this. This is Amalgamated Press Test Match Favorites. I really like these pairs. Anything uncut from this era is really cool. So, you know, for me, this was a really cool pickup. Was happy to grab it. But how about this one? This apparently is a test proof. So it's on a slightly different cardstock, blank back, and as far as I know, this is the only known copy of this test proof. It might be the only one that was printed. So my Hammond collection has gotten a lot better, let's just say that, which is really great because Hammond is one of the greatest batters and one of the greatest all-rounders of all time. And I think it's pretty cool to look back and give props to the best players, and I'm pretty excited to pick those up. There's some monster additions to my collection. I showed the Bradman postcard. I also have one more new Bradman to add to my collection. This is the 1946-47, I want to say Coles. So this is nice. Glad I grabbed that Bradman, which I did not have. That'll go with the rest of my Bradman collection, which I think I've got, I don't know, a little over 100 different Bradman cards. So glad to have that one. All right. This is probably on a different day, maybe I would say the best card I'd picked up in a while. This is Gary Sober's most rare card, or the rarest one I know about at least. These were issued in, you can see, John Martin's big stores in Australia. And there's not many known copies of this card that exist. I believe the last public sale was a few years ago in some kind of auction house, and this went for a decent amount of money. So again, when you have a chance to pick up really rare stuff, I actually have been trying to cut down my purchases this year. And if you probably just heard that, you're laughing to yourself thinking, what are you talking about? You're always buying and showing stuff. But I've really gotten a lot more selective. And as I've built out my collection, there's just less things that I'm really targeting or that I get really excited about. But I think you'll agree that when you have opportunities to add items like this to your collection, which, you know, it's no exaggeration to say, you know, if I didn't add these two, if I had said no, I would never have these in my collection. I'd never probably have another opportunity to pick some of these up. And I think that this Sobers might be in that category. If I said no to this one, I'd probably be looking at another, who knows how many years before I'd get another chance to buy one, and probably be bidding against someone else. And was just happy to pick this up. All right, home stretch here. I've got some Trumpers here. The new additions were these two. I did have this card in very poor grade, but this is one of the nicer copies of this card that I had seen. Maybe you've seen better. Ryan Nolan definitely has a better one. But I have always wanted a nice copy of this. I was very, very, very thankful to even have the poor copies with the tabs cut off. But I now have a copy of this that is quite nice compared to the average condition for this set. So a lovely, lovely card. I also added this one, which I already had these two, so you might be wondering, why'd you add a third one? It looks the same as the other one. Well, this blue one is a Vice Regal. This red one, also a Vice Regal. The Vice Regals in Capstan were the common ones, but that is not a common one. The Havelocks are tough in these series, and I had never had a chance to buy this specific card before. So, again, I saw something that was a little bit special and went for it and won the auction on it. So I was very happy to add that. And it looks very nice, doesn't it? Same pose next to the white Ogdens. Quickly, I also got this O'Reilly. Pretty nice one. One of the rarer sets. This 1934. And here is a really cool pickup for my South African friends. This is a very early Neil Harvey card. I believe this is from 1949. There you go. So it looks like it was issued by Barrett's, but for Sweet Works Company in Johannesburg. So that is a pretty cool one. I think this is 1949, like I mentioned, and an early Neil Harvey, another Aussie great. But yeah, what a cool card. I never had any cards from this series, so I was happy to pick that up. And then finally, I'll end on this one. Sydney issues, Ogdens, are always going to be tough to find. And this one is one of the better Sydneys. So luckily, I have some of the cards from the series already, including what I think is the best card from the series, which is the Sydney Barnes rookie. But, the Sydney Ogdens are just really tough to track down. And Ranji is definitely one of the better subjects, so was happy to add that. Well, this was a long video, y'all, but if you can't hear it in my voice, I have no apologies about making this one long, because if you don't like this video or these cards, then my channel is probably not for you, because this is what it's all about. Tracking down really cool history. These are the greatest players in the world, in the history of the game, of a game that's got longer history than almost any other game that's played today. So hope you enjoyed, and yeah, leave a comment. Tell me what you thought was cool.